here are 10 HR reports you absolutely must have if you're managing your HR process inside of Monday.com. By the way, if you'd like us to help you set up Monday.com for your business, check out the link below. We would love to help. Anyway, as you can see here, I'm inside of my example Monday.com system. Now, in a previous video, I walked through a HR setup within Monday.com. It's an exceedingly comprehensive video. I brace yourself, it's about an hour in length. However, this setup has allowed us to track vacancies, applications for vacancies, and then the onboarding and offboarding process for all applicants that are accepted into the business, the time to onboard, the time to offboard, all of the onboarding and offboarding tasks associated with it. We've got vacancies, who's requested vacancies, for what department, what seniority, salary, vacancy description, whether it's been internally approved or not, and also the process of a request going onto a live vacancy to either hired or unfulfilled. And then we have all of the applications associated with that particular vacancy. We now want to report on this information critically for any business owner. And this is obviously a HR system for a larger organization. But for any owner or managing director or operations person, data is crucial around the hiring process, the HR process. So we're going to report on that information in today's video. So I'm going to press the plus button, top left-hand corner here, and we're going to create a new dashboard. I'm going to call this our HR dashboard. Privacy options are entirely up to you. Given the sensitivity of the information, you may choose to select private, but main will do for me today. Now, we need to select the boards that we want to pull information in from. So in this case, it's going to be applications, vacancies, and employees. I want all three of those boards, as there's data from all three of them that we're going to be using to create the reports we are today. So I'm going to go ahead and press done. Now, the first report that I want to find out about is the average time to fill a role. So that is between the time that a request for a vacancy is created internally via the requests form to the vacancy being marked as hired. What we have at the moment is date created, date active, and date closed. I want to know the time in which it takes between a new vacancy requested to it being closed in the hired vacancies. So what we're going to do is average time to fill a role. Add widget, we're going to go numbers, and we're going to go ahead, excuse me, and create a new numbers is average time to close a role or vacancy. Average time to hire a vacancy is probably the better terminology for this. Average time to hire a vacancy. So we go three dotted button settings, go to our boards. We only want the vacancies board, so unselect employees and applications. The group that we want is the hired vacancies only. And then the numbers column is going to be one by one, and then it's going to be TTC. So I've got TTA, time to activate. I've got time to a TTAC activate close, I think. So TTO is time to one was from onboarding to active, one was from new to active, but TTC is the amount of time to close from, and I'll check this in a moment. We go customize right days, and then we go average manual 0 decimal places 3 days, and let's just double check what we selected here. So it was the TTC. So if we go to vacancies, and let's just check, TTC was this one here, I suspect. TTC, which is days, date created to date closed, which is exactly what we're after. So how long between date created, the vacancies were created, to date closed will it take? So as you can see here, on average, it takes 3 days to hire a vacancy, which is obviously fantastic, unrealistic, but fantastic. The next thing that we're going to want to look at is time to onboard. So from them actually being hired, and we manage this on the employees board, how long does it take for them to become like, yes, an offer in place, or they've accepted the offer, so now they're quote unquote an employee, to them actually being active? So we have got a TTA here, which is time to activate. So that's the time between date onboarding to date active. What I would probably look at is TTL, time to live. So date created to date active. How long between a new employee saying yes to them actually being active? So that's called TTL. So then on our HR dashboard, we want to go ahead and create a new numbers, and we will say average time to onboard. There we go. And then we go three dotted button, settings, and then our groups, or actually our boards first. We just want our employees board, so applications and vacancies can go. Our groups can be any, in all fairness, it doesn't actually matter. Or at least you might just want to have active. So you might not have new employees and active employees, but you still want the average of offboarding and exited as well. So then we would go numbers column, one by one, and I think it was TTL, time to live, customize, average manual 0 decimal places, right unit being days. So this is the average time to onboard an employee. So if I then go to my employees, I have my example employee myself here. If I change the status to active, as I suspect I probably skipped past this when I was creating it, that should then complete the date created. Let's imagine that was the 25th. Date onboarded was the 26th. Then the time to live was 2 days. So now we can see the average time to onboard a new employee is 2 days. 5 days total. Average time to hire a vacancy. Average time to onboard, as you can see, 5 days total. Again, remarkably unrealistic, but now we're tracking the data. We've then got average time to offboard. So when someone says that they no longer want to work with us, always unfortunate. How long does it take to get rid of them? I mean that in the nicest way, nicest way, but average time to offboard. And then probably want that. There we go. 3 dotted button settings. And then we want to go to boards. Again, the employees board. Then the grouping. We just want to have exited employees. So that's the only one where the offboarding data will be tracked. And then the customize would be, well, numbers column first, one by one. TT offboard, so that would be time to offboard. Customize, number of days, unit being days. And then we want an average, manual, 0 decimal places. This is our time to offboard an employee. And then we go to our employees board. And then what we can see here is we just put in some more example data. So date offboarded was, let's say, the 28th. Date exited was the 30th. So we're looking at TTOB, which is the time between the offboarding to the exited, which is in this case 2 days. So if we go to our HR dashboard, why is it not showing me 2 days? TTOB should be 2 days. Oh, that's why, because it's not in the right group. So if we change this just to the group exited, then it should update automatically. Might have to just rework this and might update things. Day exited, let's just say the 30th. Cool. There we go. So if I go, is the 28th today? No. I was going to say. So go HR dashboard. Average time to hire a vacancy, 3 days. Average time to onboard an employee is 2 days. Average time to offboard an employee is 2 days. Then I want to go ahead and look at the average tenure of an employee. So let me just check. Actually, before we do that, I've got some other reports. So vacancy requests by department per month. So you go ahead and create a new one. This is going to be chart. Vacancy requests by department per month. Crucial thing here is obviously vacancies come in via a form via the internal team, so marketing, finance, whoever. They put in a request for a new employee that would then land inside of your vacancies board here. We want to track the number of vacancies requested by department on a monthly basis. So we go to settings. First and foremost, we just want our vacancies board. Chart type is going to be a stacked bar graph. Our x-axis is going to be the date created. So the date in which this particular vacancy request was created. We're stacking by, and in this particular instance, we're going to stack by the department. And we can see here that one was for marketing and two was empty, or two was marketing, two was empty. We'll come on to that in a moment. And then our y-axis is just going to be count items. We can customize this if we want. Benchmark lines, we wouldn't really need. Groups, again, doesn't matter at all. So then if we go to our vacancies, we can see we've got a few. Let's just say finance, we'll say sales. And then I'm going to put in some dummy information, say that this was requested in July. This was requested in June, and then we go to our HR dashboard and we'll be able to see that information. Now we can see that there's 2 marketing in 1 month. If we change this to finance, you can see how it's split. What you can then do is press the 3 dotted button, go to settings, stack by, and then expand the stack. So if you wanted to, you can look at it like this. It's a little bit nicer to view. Obviously, if you've got lots of different departments, it can get a bit messy. So that's kind of the purpose of the stack by, but that's a very helpful, at least gives you a really good gauge on who's hiring a lot. Which is obviously very, very important. So we've got vacancy requests per month, just a totality. So as opposed to by department, we can go ahead and add another widget. And we just say how many vacancy requests are coming in on a monthly basis. Vacancy requests per month. Spelling not great there. three dotted button, settings. So in this instance, we just need to go to boards first. We want vacancies only. X-axis is going to be the date created, and then our Y-axis is just going to be the count of items. So you can see here that per month we've had 1 in June, 1 in July, 2 in August. Again, if you're dealing with hundreds of vacancy requests, and this obviously depends on the size of the business, this is information that you are naturally going to want to be tracking, okay? So you can see increases, decreases, you can see increases and decreases by department as well, all very valuable information. So the next thing that we want to look at is average time to fill a role by vacancy type. So time to fill a role is defined on the vacancies board from requested to hired. We then want to see that by the department or I've written here vacancy type. I think what we're looking for is department. So average time to fill a role, time to fill a role by department. There we go. Three dotted button, go to settings. We want to go ahead to boards. We want the vacancies board only. The groups is going to be only the hired vacancies, so we can unselect all of those. And then what we want to do is X-axis is going to be our average time to fill a role is going to be our date, is going to be our department. So we see department. And then our Y-axis is going to be the TTC, so time to close a role. And then we want to get the average of that. So now you can see average time to fill a role by department, 3 days for the marketing department. If I then go back to vacancies, and let's say I change this to hired and this to hired, and then I might have to update the date. So like we just put some tweaks in here. So you can see date created 77, 2 and 3. I mean, let's just go with that. Actually, that's quite good. So we've got 21, 3, 77. HR dashboard, you can see on average, it takes 49 days to fill a role for finance, 3 days for marketing. So we say, well, what precisely is going wrong with finance? Like, why is this taking so long? Have we got the job spec wrong? What do we need to refine? Like, this is key data you can look at, because ultimately you want to speed up the hiring process as much as possible. More people coming into the organization. That's how you're going to grow the business. So we've got vacancies, role request, vacancies, average time to fill a role by vacancy type. We then want to look at average time to onboard by role. So we've got on the employees board, we have a connection column between employees and vacancies. So what we probably want to do, and I've said by role here, let's just say by department. So we'll add a mirror column. We'll mirror over the department associated with this particular vacancy, which in this instance is the marketing department. So department. And then what we want to do is look at average time to onboard by role. So by onboarding, I mean from going from new employee all the way to active employee. That would, as a consequence, be TTL, time to live. Okay, so it's between date created to date active. So it's TTL. So what we're going to look at, add widget, chart again. I'll reposition this just on the left-hand side because of my big head. Settings. The board that we are after in this instance is the employees board. And then the chart type is going to be X-axis. It will be the department mirrored over from the vacancies board. And then the Y-axis is going to be TT. No, have I selected the wrong board? We're on the employees board, don't we? Pretty sure. And then the X-axis would be the Y-axis, sorry. Oh, there we go. That's what I was looking for. It's TTL, time to live. So you can see here that, the average, so is this average or total? It would be average time. So three dotted button settings, Y-axis would just be the average. So average time to onboard by employee department. Again, key data, right? So let's just say that marketing's taking 2 days, which is fine. But let's say there was another department that we have here. Finance, for example. Let's take finance. They're already having an absolute shocker with the time to fill a role. Let's say they then take another 50 days to onboard the person. What on earth is going on with the finance department? What can we then improve as part of the onboarding process to get an employee live quicker, thus more useful to the business in a shorter amount of time, thus making them a more profitable, or at least like reducing the cost associated with that particular employee? If you didn't have this data, you wouldn't necessarily know that there were delays, thus you couldn't improve them. Cool. So then I've just got some really basic stuff. So open vacancies, just the count of open vacancies. So add widget, it's going to be a numbers column. We'll just say open vacancies. vacancies, and then we go 3 dotted button settings on here. This is just going to be the board, the vacancies board, and then the numbers column is literally just going to be a count. So I can see here that we've got 4 open vacancies. So if this number spikes, obviously we can do something about that. We then want to look at the open vacancies by seniority. So this is going to be a chart in this particular instance. I'll move this across. So we have open vacancies by seniority. There we go. So we go 3 dotted button settings. We want the vacancies board in this particular instance. So we get rid of those 2. And then open. So either requested or active, hired or unfulfilled, we can untick. And then our open vacancies, our x-axis is going to be the seniority. And then our y-axis is literally going to go ahead and be the count. So if I then go to my vacancies board, I'm going to move these back to active, and then this is a manager, this is a VP, let's say this guy is an executive. Then I can see on my HR dashboard we have 1 for each seniority level. Interesting. I then want to do exactly the same but by department. So what I'll probably do is just duplicate this just to save a little bit of time. I'll reposition this across, and then we've got open vacancies by, and then in this instance it's going to be department. And then I'm going to go 3 dotted button, go settings. And then the only thing that I need to change is my x-axis, which as opposed to department would be, which as opposed to seniority would be department. And we can see that we've got 1 for each department. Now, if I go to my vacancies and I change this also to, let's just say marketing, that would then update. It would show me that we've got open vacancies by department, 2 for marketing, 1 for finance. Again, if you find that there's a massive spike by department, either you deploy more resources to get through, or you work out why there's a spike. Like, has everyone left all of a sudden? Like, have we upset a load of people? The crucial point being that without this data, you will literally never know. So that's why we track it. That's why we report on it. So I also then want to see number of employees actively onboarding. So this is going to just be a standard numbers column. I'll stick this in the top left-hand corner here. You can go away, and then I'll just say I'll just say employees actively onboarding. Cool. So this is going to be 3 dotted button settings. And then what I want to look at is boards. I just want the employees board, and then the groups, I just want new and onboarding. And then I just literally going to want on a column here, I just want count the items. So then I can see employees actively onboarding. If I go to my employees board, I can see that there are none. If I just change this guy to onboarding, that is myself. That should then update. Might take a second or two, and just say that that is 1. So we've got 1 employees actively onboarding at the moment. Now, another cool thing that we could do is, another cool thing that we could do is we could look at the average salary by employee. So, or average salary by active employee. So let's say I'm on 80,000 a year, 80,000 US dollars. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this and assume that there is another Nick Boardman that works for the exact same company in the exact same role with the exact same job reference number. But this guy is on 46,000 US dollars a year. So now I can go to my HR dashboard and I can go numbers, and I can say average active employee salary, average active employee salary. You may want to look at this, you may not. This might be an arbitrary number to you, but again, worth having, right? So we've got boards. We just want the employees board. The groups is only going to be active. I don't care about new, don't care about onboarding. I just want active. And then settings, numbers column is going to be salary. And then the customizer just want an average in the dollar, manual 2 decimal places. Then we'll head over to our employees board, and then we'll just change both of these to active. So we can see that both Nick Boardmans within the same business doing exactly the same role are now active. I've got 0 onboarding. I have an average active employee salary of 63,000. I think data like this for really large organizations, you actually have to report on in your end of year accounts. And also there's some compliance stuff as well. So you've got that. Also, if you've got average active employee, and then you can also look at average revenue by employee. So you take your total revenue divided by the number of employees. You can then look at the discrepancy between the two. It's kind of like what your profitability would be. Almost like profitability by employee. Oh, that's quite an interesting data point. Anyway, and then we got average number of applicants by vacancy by role. Let's try and think about this. So applications come in, they're associated with a vacancy. I want to see the average number of vacancies by average number of applicants by department. Let's see if we can do this. So add widget chart. And then we're going to go ahead and say average applications by department. We could do exactly the same seniority if I can get this to work. So boards would be applications. Then again, it doesn't really matter. And then what groups we do or do not decide to choose here. And then we'd have our y-axis, or x-axis, sorry, which would be the department. It doesn't look like we've pulled that across. Oh no, we do have vacancy department. And then our y-axis would be count items, but as an average. So I want to see the average amount of applications by department. On average, we get 2 applications for the marketing department. Does that sound right? So yeah, that's 2 on average. If I then, yeah, that works. Yeah, and we could do exactly the same if we duplicate this, average applications by seniority as well. By seniority. There we go. 3-dotted button. All we're going to do is settings, and we just change the x-axis from vacancy department to vacancy. No, not vacancy salary. We don't have vacancy seniority mirrored across, so let's just do that. So it's on the applications board. Go ahead, 3-dotted button, add column to the right, mirror column, and then we are looking for the vacancy seniority. There we go. Vacancy seniority. God, spelling both of those words makes my brain hurt a little bit. I'm not entirely sure why. So then we go 3-dotted button, settings, and then our x-axis is going to be the vacancy seniority, which has arrived here. And then y-axis is going to be an average of those count. So we can see on average, we get 2 applications for the manager role and also 2 applications by department. Now, this video, as I'm sure you can probably tell, could go on forever. We can report on literally everything. There's so much more reporting that we can do here. But I just wanted to give you an idea as to what's possible. One final report that we are obviously missing, well, obvious in my world anyway, is the average amount of time that an employee stays. So I think we look at between date active to date on offboarded, but we've got options. So on our employees board, we track when an application is accepted. That creates a new employee on our employees board. That triggers the date to be created. We've then got date onboarding. So that's when the status of the employee changed from new to onboarding. How we define that is either when they start or pre-start. Okay, we debated that in the previous video. Well, I debated it with myself and potentially you, but you weren't allowed an input because you can't respond because this is a video. And then we have date onboarding to date active, and then we got date active to date offboarding. I think tenure should probably be date active to date offboarding. So when they were active, when they became an active employee, to offboarding. So how long between the date active to the date offboarding started. So that date column triggers when the status is equal to offboarding. Now, the only way we really want to get an average tenure is based on when they've actually exited, I guess. Like, is that an accurate representation? Or you could do count days. Let's do the basic setup of average tenure based on people that have actually left. Well, then, but that's not an actual average. Okay, we could do this. We could go formula. Oh, we're getting into more development right now. Go formula. Give me the count in days since the date active, as long as the status is not equal to onboarding or new. Yeah, that works. So then I get an average of all of these three. Right? Oh no. Why is this not working? Oh, don't know what I've done there. It is active. They should give me a count in days. Is onboarding status. I don't know. We're not going to do that. I mean, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to waste your time going through this. My theory was that if they're still active, the 10-year average should still count. But let's just take the 10-year average of people that have left, which is going to be the difference between date active and date offboarding. We already have it here. Average tenure. Go to HR dashboard, create one more widget. It's going to be in numbers. I'll put it up here for you. So then we go 3-dotted button, settings, And then the board that we want is the employees board. I hope you get what I mean, as in, like, if they're still an employee and they've been an employee for 10 years, we need to include that in an average. That formula would work. I don't want to spend too much time trying to work that out. So we would have average time. Yeah, what are we doing? Let's just do exited employees, customize, numbers column. We'd have 1 by 1, and this would be average tenure of employees, average number of days, I guess. And then we want an average manual. No decimal places, unit being days. So this is the average tenure of people that have left. Let's just actually define that. Tenure of employees who have left. Boards, fine. Groups, fine. And then what we'll do is we'll just go to our employees board and I'll sack both of me. So I've both been exited from the business. Heartbreaking. So now if I look at my date created, so it was date active. Let's say I started then and this guy started back in March. We can see that forget all the TTA and TTL, but the average tenure 23 and 162, that gives us an average tenure of employees who have left of 93 days. Again, we could have another one which takes into consideration all of them, but I need to create another formula and I don't want to waste too much time in this video doing that. Anyway, hopefully this video helps, gives you an idea as to what's possible. If you'd like us to help you with stuff like this, more complex stuff, setting up vacancies, applications, employees, your HR process, or automating, integrating, streamlining with AI, whatever you want to do, check out the link in the description below. Book a call with myself and we can have a chat about how we could potentially help. If you've got any questions, concerns, requests, queries, drop a comment in the comment section below. I'll do my best to answer the question. If it's a really good question, I'll make a video answering it. Free consultancy just for you. So, need help, description, link in description. Have questions, comment section. Thank you ever so much for watching and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.